You are listening to the Wyn Thomas File.
And time for another guest on the Wyn Thomas File. That is Peter Thabit Jones and his new poetry collection, The Boy Who Drew John Lennon. Peter, thanks for your company today.
It's a pleasure, Wyn. Thank you.
How long does it take to put this collection together, Peter?
It's well, many of the poems go back quite a while, actually. There are poems about my childhood in Eastside Swansea, below Kilvey. I was raised by my maternal grandparents. There are poems then that cover my residency in California, writing residency in California, Big Sur, from 2010 to 2025.
Right.
There are poems, obviously, about certain John Lennon, Bob Dylan, Billie Holiday. There are poems about poets that I like, Federico Garcia Lorca, the Spanish poet, and my dear friend, the renowned Welsh language poet, Alan Floyd, who scripted the Oscar-nominated film Hayes Wyn. And there are poems about war, a young woman facing domestic abuse, things. So it's taken quite a while. Yes, it's taken quite a while.
So are you writing all the time?
I'm writing all the time. I obviously, I run an international biannual magazine, and I actually publish other poets, I think, and all various literary genres. And I think I'm up to about 45 to 50 books now. So when I find time, I do write. I've a biography coming out in America next month. When I was in the cabin last time, in 2025 in Big Sur, I completed a novel. So yes, I do try to. I spend a lot of time in this room that I call my writing room.
Okay. So I say, you know how to travel. You travel a lot. So you're writing when you're traveling as well. This book contains, how many is it? It's about 125 poems or something like that is in the book?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah. So you're writing obviously all the time. Let's do a look. Let's have a look at some of the poems then, okay? So let's tell about the poem that the title of the book is all about. Tell us about that, how you actually got to do that poem and what it's actually about.
Thank you. Well, as I said, I grew up with my maternal grandparents and working class. There was no access to poetry, and the Beatles came along, and I particularly like John Lennon, who seemed to be saying things that obviously mischievous, cynical, funny. So I became quite an admirer of the Beatles, John in particular. And at the age of 14, going on 15, I was pretty good at art in school. I came top of the class. I drew the John Lennon on the cover.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, my grandparents, they received quite a few offers to buy it from various visitors, but thankfully they refused. And it was, I went to Dannygride Primary School and Secondary School. And when I was aged 11, going on 12, there was this wonderful English literature teacher, Mr. James. I later learned Mr. James was involved in Welsh drama in the old West Glamorgan. And Mr. James read out a poem by the Welsh poet and tramp, W.H. Davies, called The Kingfisher. It was Rainbow Gave Thee Birth. And that word rainbow at that young age, it blew my mind. And Mr. James set an exercise for the weekend, and I wrote The Canary. One of my uncles kept canaries in a shed. It was a rip-off of The Kingfisher, really. But what Mr. James did was took it apart and showed me the way to do stanzas, the way to do rhymes and external rhymes. And that really was, from then on, I was hooked, and I wanted to be a poet at that young age.
So you're not really a rhyming poet, are you? You're more a statement poet. Is that right? Am I right in saying that?
There's a poem about Elvis in there that does rhyme. I do what I like to call sound texturing. So back in the 70s, I mentioned Alan Floyd earlier. I was lucky enough to meet Alan. sometimes we'd go to see the Swans, other times we'd meet in the Singleton pub. And Alan told me all about Canghanydd, Welsh language sound effects. And that was the beginning, really, of my interest in craft. So I do really believe in the musicality of a poem, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So is the boy who drew John Lennon, would you call it a biographical poem?
Yes.
Okay. And then you finish with some of Lennon's songs at the end, don't you, of that poem? You actually pick up some titles that he used in his songs.
Yes, yeah, trying to play, be clever, I suppose.
As you say, there's more Beatles there. There's another interesting one which kind of drops through the pages, which is the Liverpool Quartet. Tell us about that as well, please.
Well, it's a while back. Excuse me, my youngest daughter, Anna, she was like 12 going on 13. And I'd always wanted to do the Liverpool trip, go to Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it. So we went to Strawberry Fields and we managed to see the properties where the Beatles lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a kind of shape poem. And I did that deliberately, actually, because as you know, after they finished touring, the Beatles kind of went experimental. Yeah. And so I've written shape poems for children that have been in books like Puffin Book of Christmas Poems, etc. So I laid it out like that, but really it's them before the fame, you know.
Yeah, I got you.
And before the impact they made, literally across the world.
Yes, indeed, yeah. And you might know that today is Global Beatles Day, so they're still making that impact even today.
Exactly, yes.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Well, you mentioned Elvis as well, so Elvis pops up, but with a bit of a sad end on that poem, yeah?
Yes, I mean, I was a bit young, but some of the older boys, in Danny Greig Senior School, they were really into Elvis. And I mean, I think he was a phenomenal performer. And as you say, sadly, like a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, certainly in the pop world, it's a sad end, yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You know, people like him, Michael Jackson, all those people seem to have gone very early on in their lives, yeah?
Yes.
Yep. Let's pop into something else. So there's a poem which also caught my mind because you mentioned a certain department store, which is Elderly Women in Cardiff.
Yes. Now, I was in, my eldest daughter lives in Cardiff, and when we visit, we tend to go in Marks and Spencer for a coffee and a cake. And there were this group of women, and they were lovely. They were chatting away opposite us. And what struck me is not one of them mentioned a partner or a husband. And so I imagined them going back to, loneliness, which the poem kind of ends, and locking in loneliness until they return. Of course, I could be wrong. Maybe they didn't want to mention their partners.
Do you see yourself as a bit of a socialist as well? Looking at social issues?
Yes, I think so. My grandfather, he fought in the First and Second World War.
Oh, right, yeah.
And my grandmother lost two brothers, Alfred and Frank, in the First World War. My grandfather, yes, he became, most of my memories of my grandfather are in a bed in the parlor where he was very unwell. Oh. And he became very anti-war, and I think he passed that on to us, certainly me. It's become a kind of dirty word, I suppose, but if someone wants to call me a socialist, then I'm a socialist, I suppose.
There's nothing wrong with that at all, yeah. Now, your trips to the States are also used in here, as you said.
Yes.
What caught my eye was watching the Pacific.
Yes.
That must have been an experience, yeah?
Oh, it's amazing. So I toured America with Wyn Thomas, the daughter of Dylan, in 2008.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And we literally went from New York to California. And the year after, I was invited by a lady called Carolyn to be a writer-in-residence in a cabin in Big Sur. I couldn't take it up at the time because I was so busy after going to America with the wrong way. But the cabin is literally 15 minutes walk, and then you're at the Pacific. You're on a cliff, and there's the Pacific Ocean. And across the way, of course, would be Japan. It's an amazing and inspiring place. I literally just write in the cabin. There's no television in there. And I go for walks. And I've probably written, I know I got at least one unpublished book of poems about Big Sur. I've probably written about 3 books. One was the poems from a cabin on Big Sur, which was published. I've written several dramas there. And as I said earlier, I completed a novel. So it's, you literally you're in amongst nature, and I've seen a whale, a bit like Moby Dick with a tail up.
Oh,
I've seen
right.
raccoons who tend to wake me up at night on the roof of the cabin,
Wow.
a bobcat, and luckily the back of a bear.
Yeah, luckily at the back of the bear. Yeah, like that line. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And finishing up on this, you come home then to another one, which was you staying by the seaside, and this is Rosilly Beach, an afternoon in February.
Yes, yes. And that's, I took a walk down Rosilly, which is one of my favorite places. And I'd not long lost a friend, and we used to talk about, I would say, about the importance of the craft of poetry. And my friend would say, no, 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 you're straitjacketing yourself. And so apart from describing Rosilly on my walk, and I used the dry stone wall as an example of craft. I absolutely love dry stone
Yeah.
walls. I mentioned my friend, and sadly, he passed away and never saw that poem. Yes.
Oh dear, dear, dear. Oh dear. Well, there we are then. That's the fantastic new collection from Peter Thabit Jones, and that is The Boy Who Drew John Lennon. It's published by 7th Quarry Press. My guest today was Peter. Thanks so much indeed for your company, and thanks again. Lovely to chat to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Wyn, and thanks for the opportunity.